Hello, I'm Maribel Tarouk. Welcome to Our Toronto. We've got a lot of great stories to share with you about our city, and I'll talk to one of the pioneers of Canadian hip-hop. We'll look at how DJ Ron Nelson helped grow the movement and tell you how he's being honored. Next. So long before Drake and The Weeknd, there was Maestro and Michie Me, some of the pioneers of Canadian hip-hop. There was also Ron Nelson, and he joins me in studio now. Thank you for coming in.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You know, Ron was part of this cultural movement that brought hip-hop from the boroughs of New York right here to the streets of Toronto. You've blazed a trail, and you're being honored for it, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But hip-hop, you know, back in its infancy, when you discovered it, what was it about this genre that drew you in?
Something just was magical about it. It was a response thing. You had kind of no choice but to respond to this new thing. I look at it like the birth of a new moon in one's lifetime. You know, you're not going to see certain things, but I was there when hip-hop was birthed from the Bronx and then spilled over into Toronto because we're so close to America. It was just the music. I was a DJ at the time playing funk, and then slowly there's a transition where rapping started inserting itself into the funk music. And I was grooving to that, and I found I love the naked beats, I love heavy bass, and then all of a sudden Rapper's Delight came out and cemented the whole thing. That it took off right from there.
At CKLN, that was when people first got to listen to or were introduced to rap and hip-hop. That was in the late 80s.
I went to Ryerson as a student for radio and television, and the very first day I went to school in 1982, I believe it was, I went to the radio station and applied for a job, and they gave me a job, and I had to play a whole bunch of like punk and rock and stuff. When I started inserting rap music and black music, I was actually fired temporarily because that was not their ideology at the time, right? It was an alternative punk, new wave, just alternative rock station. But then a couple of months later, they said, okay, you can have your own show, and now you can do what you want and play your own music. Little did I know at the time that it was still this, you know, sensation that would blow up into this multi-billion-dollar movement and industry. I just played what I loved, and at that time, it was overtaking me and a lot of other people that I knew. The hip-hop was the most exciting things. It still gives me chills thinking about the early 80s and seeing some of these artists for the first time and playing them on the radio and hearing people call in and say, look, not only do I want to hear them, but I want to see them. Can you bring some of these people to Toronto? And I'm looking around. There's no one else doing those things. So obviously I took a shot at it, and that changed my life. I became a promoter, not just a DJ, and the story continued from there.
And that's why you're a pioneer and a trailblazer in the Canadian industry for sure. And I'm glad that you still have the passion for DJing because you brought the turntables in. Yeah. So it would be awesome if you could play a set for us.
No computers here, no Serato, just
we're
raw,
going old
naked
school.
turntables. We're going old school.
Okay.
So we'll do it for the Fantastic Voice program for back in the days.
Okay.
All right. No problem.
The MCs in a single line. Look at the jam on the mic. It's a bird.
It's a plane.
No, I'm super rhyme.
Going, Ron, as our soundtrack for the rest of this interview. We're hearing some really old school rap. here. What about the names that you brought to Toronto, the ones, you know, that went on to become rap legends, and you were able to bring them to Toronto?
Well, there's Run DMC was like the first interview where I had an epiphany. It was the first time they'd left America, and I was like the first journalist to interview them outside of the States. And at the end of it, they said it was like the best interview they ever had. But Run DMC, Public Enemy, Eric B. and Rakim, EPMD, Heavy D and the Boys, Roxanne Shante, Ice Cube, Ice-T, Queen Latifah. I can't remember it all. EPMD.
These are all the names.
Biz Markie.
Yes, like the rap royalty, really, from
in the golden
from
years
the early,
of rap too.
Exactly,
you know?
And because of all of that work, I mean, and you also introduced Maestro and Mishimi to the Canadian audience and helped their careers too.
The radio show should take responsibility for that, and thanks to CKLN, it was a great radio station and a lot of power there, because when everyone felt hip hop, it was the first time that there was an umbrella for, you know, everyone to kind of gather and realize that we all have something in common. We're all being driven by this force. So that's when I first met people like Mishi and Maestro. They used to come down to the radio station every Saturday, and it was a nice vibe. And then when you meet these people, you kind of, you know, you become part of their movement. So the support and the camaraderie and the networking, the chemistry, just we're all kind of on the same movement trying to get somewhere in hip-hop, when it was like impossible from a Canadian point of view for anyone to get anywhere. There was no record labels, there was no infrastructure, there was nobody that understood how to manage artists, how to produce hip-hop and have it sound the right way. Those were all missing elements from the early part of the Canadian scene.
Little did we know you had them all in there. I want to ask you finally, you're receiving this honor as one of the architects of hip-hop in Canada. It's an event called I Was There. What does that mean to get this kind of recognition?
Honestly, it's very flattering, and I've always been a critic, you know, saying that in America they do things right, and in Canada we kind of follow the leader, but we don't recognize our pioneers, we don't recognize our history, especially in an urban point of view. So if we go back to the days of the early hip-hop, hardly anybody had a camera, hardly anybody had a video camera. We didn't know we were making history at the time, and that this moment would come where we look back at those times as being special. We were just doing our thing. So I think the movement has a very good purpose. I believe that historically speaking, yes, we should, you know, recognize people like myself and Sunshine Sound Crew and a whole bunch of others that should get more credit than we have time to give them for helping move and shake in the early days, so that today there's this vibrant multi-billion-dollar hip-hop industry that we're all part of today. So big up everyone who's there right now, but I was there.
You were there, and that's why you're getting these accolades. Listen, it's been such a treat to have you here. As we wrap, it would be great for you to play us out. Could you do that?
Sure, no problem, no problem.
Thanks so much, Ron.
Thank you. Run for cover, run for cover.